Welcome back to the channel, basketball fans. Today, we are diving deep into a storyline that sounds like it was ripped straight out of a science fiction movie, a comic book origin story, or a secret government experiment. We are talking about the evolution of the perfect basketball player, a prospect so incredibly polished, so physically imposing, and so fundamentally flawless that people are genuinely starting to joke and sometimes wonder if he was engineered in a secret underground laboratory. I am talking, of course, about Cameron Boozer. But this is not just a story about one player finding his way to the top of the scouting leaderboards. No, this is a story about bloodlines. It is a story about legacy, expectations, the heavy burden of a famous last name, and most importantly, it is a story about brotherhood. You see, the narrative circling the basketball world right now is that Cameron Boozer was made in a laboratory just to save his brother, Caden Boozer. And while that might sound like wild hyperbole, when you sit down, watch the tape, analyze their incredible synergy, and look at the trajectory of their careers, the metaphor starts to make an unbelievable amount of sense. To truly understand the magnitude of what we are witnessing with Cameron Boozer, we have to rewind and look at the landscape of modern basketball genetics. We live in an era where the sons of former National Basketball Association superstars are stepping into the spotlight more than ever before. We have seen the incredible scrutiny placed on players like Bronny James, Zaire Wade, and Shareef O'Neal, the pressure cooker of social media, 24/7 recruiting rankings, and mixtapes makes it almost impossible for these kids to simply develop at their own pace. They carry the ghosts of their fathers onto every single court they step on. But the Boozer twins, Cameron and Caden, the sons of two-time NBA All-Star and Olympic gold medalist Carlos Boozer, have somehow managed to navigate this chaotic environment with a level of poise and dominance that is frankly terrifying to opposing high school and college programs. Carlos Boozer was an absolute force in the NBA. He was a bruising, highly skilled power forward who made his living in the paint, dominating the glass, and utilizing an incredibly soft touch around the rim. He had a legendary run at Duke University, helping lead them to a national championship, and then carved out a spectacular professional career, most notably alongside Deron Williams in Utah and later with the Chicago Bulls. Carlos was a tactician in the pick and roll, a master of positioning, and a player who understood the angles of the game better than almost anyone in his era. When you have a father with that kind of resume, the blueprint for success is already laid out on the kitchen table. But genetics alone do not guarantee greatness. Genetics only give you the tools. You still have to build the machine. And that brings us to the laboratory metaphor. Let's talk about Caden Boozer first, because to understand why Cameron is the ultimate weapon, you have to understand the architect he is protecting. Caden is a phenomenal point guard. He is a pure floor general, a facilitator who processes the geometry of the basketball court at a supercomputer level. He has the elite handle, the vision, the passing accuracy, and competitive fire that every single championship contending team desperately needs at the helm. But in the modern landscape of basketball, a point guard, no matter how brilliant, needs a primary target. A point guard needs a pick-and-roll partner who can punish defenses for switching, a lob threat who can rise above the rim, a floor spacer who can drag rim protectors out of the paint, and a defensive anchor who can clean up the mistakes on the other end of the floor. Caden needed a big man who could seamlessly translate his brilliant passes into points, a player who could protect him from the relentless physical toll of attacking the paint. Enter Cameron Boozer. If you were a mad scientist tasked with building the absolute perfect complementary superstar to play alongside a brilliant, high IQ point guard like Caden, you would build Cameron. The physical dimensions alone are staggering. Standing 6 feet 9 inches tall, with a massive wingspan, broad shoulders, and a powerful lower body, Cameron looks like a seasoned NBA veteran playing against children. But it is not just his size that sparks the laboratory rumors. It is the absolute lack of flaws in his game. Big men at his age usually have a glaring weakness. They are either incredible athletes who cannot shoot, or great shooters who are soft on the glass, or dominant interior players who have 2 left feet when forced to switch onto a guard on the perimeter. Cameron has none of those weaknesses. It is as if the basketball gods took all the best attributes of his father, Carlos, the soft hands, the rebounding instincts, the ambidextrous finishing around the rim, and downloaded them straight into Cameron's mainframe. But then they did not stop there. The laboratory experiment continued. They added a smooth, silky three-point jump shot with mechanics so repeatable and fluid that shooting coaches just stare in awe. They added elite lateral quickness, allowing him to slide his feet and stay in front of explosive guards on perimeter. They gave him a defensive motor that never stops running, turning him into a terrifying weak-side shot blocker. And perhaps most impressively, they gave him the temperament of a silent assassin. This is where the narrative of him being created to save his brother really takes root. Whenever Caden drives the lane and draws a double team, Cameron is magically hovering in the exact right spot for a dump-off pass or an alley-oop. If a defender tries to bully Caden, Cameron is there to set a bone-crushing screen that completely levels the opposition. The synergy between them is not just twin telepathy. It is a tactical masterpiece. Cameron's entire skill set perfectly insulates Caden's playmaking. If teams try to blitz Caden in the pick and roll, Caden simply tosses the ball to Cameron on the short roll, and from there, it is game over. Cameron in a 4-on-3 advantage is an unsolvable math problem for a defense. He can float a soft teardrop over the center. He can aggressively attack the rim and dunk everything in his path, or he can throw a perfectly timed skip pass to a shooter in the corner. He is the ultimate safety valve, the ultimate weapon, and the ultimate brotherly shield. The basketball world has watched him dominate the high school scene at Columbus High in Miami, Florida, winning state championships and thoroughly dismantling elite competition on the grassroots circuit. Every time Cameron steps onto the hardwood, he looks like a created player from a video game with all his attributes set to 99. He rebounds like a machine. He shoots like a guard. He defends like a fortress. The hype train left the station a long time ago, and now it is operating at bullet train speeds. People are not just comparing him to his father anymore. They are comparing him to the absolute elites of the sport. You hear whispers of Paolo Banchero. You hear shades of Anthony Davis. You hear people saying he might be the most complete high school prospect since LeBron James. And the scary part? They might be right. He is a top player now, not just because of his last name, but because he's putting the relentless, grueling hours behind closed doors to perfect every single micro-movement of his craft. He has taken the laboratory rumors and turned them into undeniable, terrifying reality on the court. So, how did this laboratory experiment actually translate into real, measurable basketball dominance? Let us transition into a deep dive analysis of exactly what makes Cameron Boozer the most devastating force in amateur basketball, and why his game translates so seamlessly to the highest levels of the sport. We have to start with his offensive versatility, because that is what truly separates him from the pack. When you evaluate a power forward in today's game, the prerequisite for elite status is no longer just back-to-the-basket dominance. The modern game requires spacing, versatility, and the ability to initiate offense from the perimeter. Cameron operates with a level of offensive sophistication that takes most players a decade in the professional ranks to achieve. Let us break down his face-up game. When Cameron catches the ball at the elbow or the top of the key, he adopts a triple threat stance that instantly puts a defender in a state of panic. Because of his lethal shooting stroke, defenders have to close out hard and respect his jumper. If they give him an inch of space, he rises up with a high release point that makes his shot virtually unblockable, snapping his wrist with perfect rotation. But the moment a defender crowds his airspace, Cameron utilizes a lightning-fast first step to put the ball on the deck. He does not dribble loosely like a traditional big man. He handles the rock with the tight, rhythmic cadence of a wing player. He can attack going left, he can attack going right, and he possesses an elite understanding of how to use his body to shield the ball from digging defenders. Once he gets into the paint, his finishing package is simply extraordinary. He does not just rely on overwhelming power, although he has plenty of that to spare. He relies on incredible touch and body control. He can finish through contact with either hand. He has a beautiful array of spin moves, up and unders, and running hooks that he executes with mechanical precision. And his footwork is a masterclass in balance. You watch him navigate the crowded, restricted area, and it is like watching a dancer who just happens to be a 240-pound wrecking ball. He never seems to be off balance. He never rushes his shot, and he never allows the defense to speed up his internal clock. But to truly appreciate the genius of Cameron Boozer, you have to look beyond his scoring and examine his passing. This is where the connection with his brother Caden really elevates his game. Playing alongside an elite point guard has taught Cameron the value of ball movement and court mapping. When he catches the ball in the post, he doesn't immediately put his head down and force a bad shot. He surveys the floor. He reads the secondary line of defense. If the double team comes from the baseline, he knows exactly where the cutter is. If the double team comes from the strong side, he effortlessly fires a cross-court pass to the open shooter. His assist-to-turnover ratio is historically great for a player of his size and usage rate. He operates as an offensive hub, a player you can run your entire system through, because he will almost always make the mathematically correct decision. Defensively, the laboratory metaphor becomes even more apparent. Cameron is a defensive Swiss Army knife. In traditional drop coverage, he is a massive deterrent at the rim. He has impeccable timing, knowing exactly when to leave his man to challenge a driver without committing a foul. He understands the principle of verticality, absorbing contact in the air with his chest and forcing missed layups simply by occupying space. But what makes him a nightmare for modern offenses is his switchability. In late-game situations, when teams try to run pick-and-roll actions to hunt mismatches and force big men out onto perimeter, Cameron completely neutralizes the strategy. You can switch him on to a quick, shifty point guard, and he will drop his hips, slide his feet, and stay mirrored to the ball handler's chest. He has the hip fluidity to change directions instantly, and his massive wingspan allows him to contest step-back jumpers effectively even if he gets beat by half a step. And we cannot talk about Cameron without dedicating a significant portion of this analysis to his rebounding. Rebounding is often considered a hustle stat, a measured desire rather than pure skill. But Cameron has turned rebounding into a science. He tracks the trajectory of the ball the moment it leaves the shooter's hand. He establishes early, dominant position, burying his opponent under the basket using leverage and lower body strength. He has elite quick-twitch leaping ability, allowing him to grab the ball at its absolute highest point, securing it with two hands, and immediately pivoting to initiate the fast break. His defensive rebounding ends possessions definitively, and his offensive rebounding crushes the spirit of the opposing team, generating countless second-chance points and demoralizing putback dunks. The culmination of all these skills was put on full display during the recruitment process, which was arguably the most highly scrutinized in recent memory. Every single blue blood program in the country was knocking down the door of the Boozer household. But the narrative was always tied to their father's legacy at Duke University. The decision for Cameron and Caden to officially commit to the Duke Blue Devils and play for head coach Jon Scheyer was a monumental moment in the college basketball landscape. It signaled a continuation of a royal basketball bloodline. But for Cameron, it is also a crucible. Duke is an environment where excellence is not just expected, it is demanded. The lights in Cameron Indoor Stadium are brighter. The student sections are louder, and the media scrutiny is relentless. However, everything we have seen from Cameron suggests he is not just ready for that environment. He was built for it. Coach Scheyer is getting a player who can step onto a collegiate floor on day one and be the focal point of a national championship contender. Scheyer runs a sophisticated offensive system that relies heavily on spacing, intelligent reads, and versatile forwards who can make decisions on the fly. Cameron fits that system like a custom-made glove. He will be utilized in delay actions. He will be heavily featured in the pick and pop, and he will anchor a defense that will likely be among the most suffocating in the nation. And he will be doing it all with his brother Caden right beside him, feeding him the ball, orchestrating the offense, and continuing that symbiotic dominance that has defined their entire basketball lives. As we project forward to his professional future, the consensus among NBA executives and scouting departments is virtually unanimous. Cameron Boozer is not just a high-level prospect. He is a franchise-altering talent. He represents the pinnacle of modern basketball development. We are looking at a player who projects to be a foundational piece for an NBA organization, a guy who could be the number one option on a playoff team, a perennial all-star, and quite possibly a future MVP candidate. The NBA game, with spacing, pace, and emphasis on skill at every position, is perfectly suited for his physical tools and cerebral approach. As we wrap up this massive deep dive, we have to return to the core of the narrative. Was Cameron Boozer made in a laboratory just to save his brother? Is he a genetically engineered basketball terminator designed to clear the path for Caden's playmaking genius? The truth, of course, is far more grounded, but no less spectacular. Cameron was not built in a lab. He was forged in the driveway. He was forged in empty gymnasiums at 6 a.m. He was forged by the relentless, demanding love of a father who knew exactly what it takes to reach the mountaintop and refused to let his son settle for anything less. He was forged by the fierce, unspoken bond between twin brothers who push each other, protect each other, and elevate each other to heights they could never reach alone. The story of the Boozer twins is a testament to the beauty of basketball as a team sport, even when individual brilliance shines so brightly. Caden needs Cameron's immovable strength and flawless execution, and Cameron needs Caden's brilliant mind and selfless distribution. They are two halves of a perfect basketball equation. Cameron may have the prototype body, the unstoppable jump shot, and the terrifying defensive prowess, but all of that is magnified tenfold because he knows exactly who is passing him the ball. He is a top player in the world not just because of his individual gifts, but because he plays the game with a singular, beautiful purpose: to win and to do it alongside his family. We are witnessing the dawn of a new era in basketball greatness. The legacy of Carlos Boozer has been passed down, upgraded, refined, and unleashed upon the world in the form of these two incredible young men. The pressure on them will only increase from here. The college crowds will be hostile. The NBA draft process will dissect every single flaw they might possess, and the expectations will be astronomical. But if the past is any indicator of the future, Cameron Boozer will not flinch. He will simply step onto the court, lock eyes with his brother, and methodically dismantle whoever is unfortunate enough to be standing in their way. If you enjoyed this incredibly detailed breakdown and want to see more long-form, deep-dive analysis into the greatest stories, prospects, and tactical nuances in the world of basketball, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. Let me know down in the comments section below. Do you think Cameron Boozer will win a national championship at Duke? And who do you think translates better to the NBA, Cameron or Caden? I read every single comment, and I love debating with you all. Thank you so much for watching. Keep grinding on your own game, and I will see you in the next one.